Hello, friends. Welcome back to Amanda's Bookish Adventures. We are back with my January book haul part 2. We have some sequels, and I have some complaints. But not complaints about the book, well, 2 books, but we'll go on that. But let's talk about some of the books I've received. Well, not received, what I purchased. Silver and Blood by Jessie Malik, author of Polus Rising. I believe I own that her at least one of her books on Kindle. When a vicious beast begins attacking her fellow villagers, Riella reluctantly agrees to enter the Forbidden Forest and kill the monster, as she's the only mage available, or so she thought. Untrained and barely armed, Riella is quickly overwhelmed when one of the beasts turns into two. She fears her death at a hand until an unexpected arrival of a scarred, strikingly handsome man with gleaming moonlight. Magic changes her fate and provides. So I just got a notification that was weird. I'll read it in a minute. I don't even know where I was. Untrained and barely armed, Riella is quickly overwhelmed with one beast turning into two. She fears her death is at hand until the unexpected arrival of scarred, strikingly handsome man with a gleaming moonlight magic changes her fate and provides a rare opportunity to learn about her own fickle power. After being rescued and healed from the beast poison, Riella wakes in a magical castle complete with a gorgeous library, a strange wolf, a surly man who saved her life. She learns Garrick is both powerful and far deadlier than a mere mortal mage, but thanks to a century curse, his powers are weakening. Trapped in his castle, surrounded by the treacherous woods, the spark of attraction between Riella and Garrick slowly ignites into fiery desire. But the more they discover about Riella's magic, the more suspicious Garrick grows of her identity. As they unravel the secrets and lies connecting Riella's past to Garrick's, the tremendous threads of trust between them starts to fray, because Riella's life or her death might be the key to regaining everything Garrick has lost. Sounds good. I'm actually really intrigued about that. The funny thing is, these next 2 books both have wolf in the title and a word for royalty, or word associated with royalty. We have The Wolf and His King by Finn Longman. Sprayed edges. Noel Knight is hiding the beast inside a lonely king isolated by his couriers. Between them and a possible gulf surmountable only by twists and turns of relentless destiny and the spell-binding retelling of Marie de France' classic 12th century tale of romance and adventure. The wolf sickness strikes away, always without warning, stealing what is with these names? This Clarence's body and confusing his mind. Since boyhood, he hasn't dared leave his isolated holdings, not to beg the return of his father's lost estates, not to seek brotherhood among the court, not even to win the knighthood he yearns for. But when a new king ascends, Brilliant must deliver his kiss of fealty in answer for the failure. Half an exile himself, the young king is intrigued by this uneasy nobleman. Bessert seems a perfect knight, bold, strong, and merciful, but he keeps his secrets close, and the king's longings are not for counsel alone. As his fascination grows, the barrier between them multiplies until one day a strength vanishes between them. Reaching desperation and grief, the king stands alone to face the greatest threats to his kingdom, with only a duty his people between him and ruin. Sorry, with only duty to his people between him and ruin, duty and steadfast loyalty of the strangest wolf. I've been looking forward to that one for a while. Here is the other one I've been looking forward to. We have The Wolf and the Crown of Blood by Elizabeth May, the Broken Accords series. Death is a savior who demands blood. Oh, that book is stiff. A princess and a war-weary god met in the ashes of a broken city, forging a pact in blood and sacrifice. Now centuries of fragile peace on the brink of collapse, Brian Delvant was born to die again and again, and Vertina royal blood is the currency of peace, with every monarch sacrifice and resurrection to appease the gods. But when rebellion stirs, the God King sends his deadliest weapon to restore an order, and an immortal assassin known only as the Wolf. Evander has perfected the art of killing over centuries, until his latest target becomes the one person he cannot destroy. When the forbidden desire burns between the assassin and the sacrificial princess, their connection threatens their fragile boundary between gods and mortals. And when the boundaries shatter and empires crumble, because when gods fall in love with mortals, mortals are always the ones to break. That sounds so good. I'm going to save the two books I have to complain about for the very last. We have The Elsewhere Express, Samantha Soto. Ooh, those end papers are nice. When you lose your way in life, Elsewhere Express might find you. Step aboard the train that may take you to your life's purchase in this wishful Ghibli-esque fantasy with the author of The Water Moon. You can't buy a ticket for the Elsewhere Express, appearing only to those whose lives are adrift. It's a magical train seeming to carry very rare and special cargo, a sense of purpose, peace, and belonging. Rhea is one of the lost souls. She's dreamed of being a songwriter, but when her brother died, she gave up her dream and started living his instead. One day on the subway, as her thoughts wander, she's swept to the Elsewhere Express. Then she meets Q, an intriguing artist who, like her, has lost his place in the world. Together, they find a train full of wonders, from a boarding car that also has a meadow to a dining car where passengers can picnic on lily pads, to a bar where jellyfish and whales swim through the pink clouds. Over the course of their long, strange night on the train, they discover that it harbors secrets and danger, and a mysterious stranger has stowed away and brought with him a dark, malignant magic that threatens to destroy the train. In, in investigating the stowaway's identity, Rhea finds herself drawing closer to the ultimate question: what is her true life's purpose and its destination? The Elsewhere Express can take her to. I'm actually really intrigued with that because as you age and your life goes on, there's so many what ifs and relationships change. And I think that will be healing in a way. Okay. This one confuses me because it doesn't have. I know it's a signed edition, which I'm happy I got a signed copy. It doesn't tell me what the story is about. I think I learned that it is a woman that goes back and tries to finish a story. I'll just read you the author's note. But the sprayed edges and even the artwork is stunning. This is why I bought this special edition. Dear reader, right now you're holding my favorite book I've ever written. Most people would think my favorite would be Fourth Wing, but my heart truly belongs to the things we leave unfinished. Early in the pandemic, I found myself enchanted by a TV adaptation of Jane Austen novel. she never finished called Sanitation? Santon. By the eighth and final episode of the season, I was livid. What do you mean our heroine and hero aren't living off their happily ever after? Isn't that the unspoken promise of a Jane Austen story? Don't worry, there are two more seasons now, but back in 2020, my brain started to spin. As a romance author, I have a duty to my readers to deliver a happily ever after, and when writing in that genre, but what would happen if I left a work unfinished? And why would I not finish a story? That's the question that sparked this novel. From where I was drowned, the rabbit hole consumed by a love story that starts in World War II Britain and spans across generations into modern day. I love this book because it sounds like Billie Holiday and feels like a Colorado sunset. It bears witness to a love that holds together by letters during wartime, just like my own marriage has been. It speaks to devotion between sisters, the obligation we take on for family, and the ones we go on in the name of self preservation. It is my favorite because I wrote it during one of my most difficult times in my life, and though I can still feel the weight in every word, it's the hope and promise that the right love can bring out the best in all of us that has stayed with me all these years. I hope you love it as much as I do. XOXO Rebecca. It is actually really like the book I showed you in last week's book haul. I really have started to enjoy books like this, where it's just, well, that one had a dust jacket, but I've been starting to enjoy the book having this without the paper dust jacket. For me, it just makes it so much easier because when I take off the dust jacket to read, because they drive me crazy. I've never lost a dust jacket cover, knock on wood, but they do tend to drive me crazy. We have The Poet Express by Shen Tao. Love is a Weapon. I was so hyped when this was announced last year that I did not expect to have to wait so far to get it, and then I got it into my hands and I am so happy I did. I have not read it yet, but it's actually something I really, really want to read. I just have to finish another book I'm currently in the middle of. The Poet Empress is a hidden knife and a breathless reading experience. Andrea Stewart, author of The Bone Shard Daughter. In the waning years of the Exilia dynasty, the emperor is dying, the land is consumed by famine, and poetry magic is lost to all except the powerful. Wen Yi is desperate. After the fifth death of a sibling, with her family and village on the brink of starvation, she will do anything to save those she loves, even offering herself as a concubine to the cruel, dissolute heir of the blood-gutted Azalea house. But in a twist of fate, the inner court stands on the knife edge of a civil war, with Wee now at the center as the prince's chosen. To survive, Wee must harden her heart, rely on her wit, and become dangerous herself, even if it means learning the art of poetry, magic, in secret. In a world where women are forbidden to read, and wielding the most powerful spell of all, a ballad of death and love. So I'm reading a book similar that is in the room, my bedroom, and I'm listening it to audibly. So once I finish my audiobook, even though I have a physical copy, the text was way too small for me to just keep into the book. After I finish that book, I'm going to listen to a different book, give it a little bit of time. I'm diving into this. This is like one of my top TBR books of the year. We have a sequel, and it is book 3, Forged by Malice by Elizabeth Helen. And it is a White Shoes novel, and I haven't read any of them. I'm waiting for them all to be released by Bloom in this new format. And Bloom has been consistent with this series, and this is why the next things I'm going to complain about these next 2 books. with when they have released this. They've all had the same cover design, sprayed edges. Let's go talk about these next two books. I have purchased two other books in this series before, and they both came with sprayed edges. I'm not really this mad about this one because the one for the sprayed edges for the first book in this series was just solid color, which I still would have preferred. The cover is gorgeous, but I would have preferred the sprayed edge. If I did not know it was not going to have a sprayed edge, I wouldn't have mind just buying it for my Kindle. So we have Enchanting the Fade Queen, The Queens of Villainy 2. Welcome back to Stephanie Berge's sparkling Gaslight World in Queen's Ability series, where a seductive Fey Queen meets her unexpected match in the enemy's valiant general. Queen Lorelei is a notorious Fey seductress with a trail of broken hearts in her wake, but behind her glamorous lifestyle and sparkling mask lurks a dangerous, intelligent woman who will do anything to keep her life safe, including kidnapping the Empire's most famous hero. The virtuous High General Gerard de Morel represents all that is moral and true, and he has to. After his parents were executed for treason, the last thing he needs is the Queen of Valeria, who showers rainbow glitter and sparkles everywhere she goes without the slightest regard for good taste, decorum, and or royal dignity. The opposites in every way when they're swept up in a grand and deadly fey tournament. They discover all each other's most hidden truths and how perfect they might be suited for each other. So, like I said, the cover is good. If I knew it did not have a sprayed edge, I would have just not have bought this and bought it for Kindle. It saved me some money. This one, so I'm not really that mad because at least the covers match. I'm more mad about this one. So, the first book in an Ancestor and Memory series, I loved it. It was one of my top books last year. I gave it 5 stars. The sprayed edges on that book, and I'll have to show you. I might do like some TikToks or some shorts comparing it. Nothing beats that sprayed edge. But I pre-ordered that right after I finished. I pre-ordered this right after I finished that book. I really, really, I know I'm going to enjoy it. I'm very sad they didn't continue the sprayed edge. Yu Sanada struggles to raise her 12-year-old brother, Hiro, while contending with the antics of their neglectful alcoholic mother. During a trip to Enon Park, Hiro runs away from his sister into a strange passage beneath a samurai statue. Yu chases after him and soon finds herself in a Tokyo far removed from the familiar world of 1995. When Yu emerges from the tunnel, she cannot find Hiro but meets a young woman named Chio and her family and learns she's traveling back. She traveled back through time to 1923. A feeling between two women develop. You realize it's just as feelings between these two women develop, you realize it's just weeks until the devastating Great Kanto earthquake kills tens of thousands, levels the city. Will you be able to find her brother and protect her new family from the coming disaster? So the first book, the character went so far back into Japan. She went during the end of the samurai reign, and top of my head, I cannot remember the character's name. And she was trying to find information about her ancestor. She got led back to a different way. She transcended through time. So the series is remarkable and interesting. They're going to time traveling through Japan in historic settings, and the way that book and absolutely amazing. I don't know how this one's gonna go. I gave that one a 5 stars. I'm hoping to give this one a 5 stars. But overall, the covers at least match the two books, in my opinion. I do think they could have had the sprayed edge, at least to continue on. So that's one, six. So that was 9 books. Let me double count. Yes, so 9 books. So in the first book haul, that was 11. So in the total month of January, I held 20 books. and probably more for digital, but I read 31 books and I split majority of it was digital, but I did read some of my physical TBR. Yes, it was manga, but I did read down some of my physical TBR with some rereads and then continuations. So overall, not a bad month, and I did get rid of some books, so I'm happy with that progress. So that is it for this January book haul part 2. If you've read any of these books, let me know. If you've read this one, I would really love to hear your thoughts on this. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.